Hi there and welcome to Planet Zoo. Today I'm touring this little volcano island zoo that I've created specifically for the Oceania Pack. It's basically a mini zoo for showcasing the new animals and the new scenery pieces. With the launch of the Oceania Pack, I've been getting strong South Pacific Island vibes and I really wanted to have a go at making a South Pacific island. Now, a few years back, I attempted an island build before, and that was with the launch of the Southeast Asia Pack, and for that one, well, it was a solid idea, but it was poorly executed. That one was far too big, and it was far too ambitious, so for this island, I've dialed it in a lot, and I'm much happier with this version. So, first thing with this island, you may be wondering, or you may already know, how have I got it to look like an island in the middle of the sea? There is a trick to getting your map to look like this, and credit for this goes to another wonderful Planet Zoo creator, Just Goran. They're the first person I'm aware of that discovered how to create maps like this. Basically, how it works, this is a diorama map, and what you can do is stretch the square of land that you get with the basic diorama layout, and you stretch that right out to the border of the map like this. Be warned, this can take a while. Even this one, with the bigger size brush, this took me maybe an hour to get the terrain all the way across to the edges. Once that task is done, all you have to do is put in a barrier, so one of the glass barriers or the waterproof barriers, and then you can add the water and it fills the entire map like so. Of course, for your island in the middle, you need to make sure that you shape the terrain there first before you add the water in, because once this water's in, it's a bit awkward to remove it. I had to remove it several times to make adjustments, and, well, because it stretches across the entire map, it can take forever for it to fill it back in, so I wouldn't recommend doing that. Right, so that's how I built the island. Time to start the tour. I figure it's best to start from the zoo entrance. So this is a dock and I've got the boat that I used for my previous island build here. Now I know we've got the new ready built boat entrance that I could have used, but I did feel that was a little too European for my liking. I wanted my old fashioned ferry that I've got here. The guest spawners themselves, they're not on the boat though. That's within this building on the dock. And this is hidden behind these panels, so maybe a little understated on the entrance here, but it does work for what I wanted to do with it. Majority of islands in the Pacific, they're not going to be big grand entrances to the islands there. They're going to be little docks like this for the most part, I think. Something I have added here, I did some research on real life islands like in French Polynesia in the South Pacific, got onto Google Street View and had to look around. I can say I'm very jealous of people who get to visit little islands like those. It's astoundingly beautiful. I can imagine being there myself, absolutely, but don't have the money for that, alas. Anyway, I noticed on these islands that there seem to be an awful lot of golf carts dotted about, so I'm assuming that's what they use for their main form of transport. So as a little nod to that, I created my own golf cart out of some of the scenery pieces here, and I've got these dotted around at various places on the island just to mimic how guests would get around. So that's the entrance dock. Moving on, the entrance itself is through these thatched archways, and to create this I copied the style of a covered pier I'd found in Bora Bora. That was very similar to what I've got here, using thatched roof and then the painted wooden beams to add the supports there. Making our way through the archway, that brings us out onto the road. A lot of plants in this build, copying what places like this would look like in real life. One thing that's really complemented this build is the new lava rock path. I love this path and it works perfectly for a Pacific Island build. Moving through the road here, I've put up some amenity stalls. So I've set up a bike rental, feels appropriate for a tiny island like this. And then there's a drinks counter here as well. And I've repurposed the marquee juice bar blueprint that I've made from my European zoo here. This stall, it's so versatile. I kind of use it in pretty much all my builds now. And I'm not sorry about that. I love it and it seems to fit in well with pretty much any build I do. So where it fits, I do put it in. Anyway, let's leave the stall and take a look at the beach. So, of course, a Pacific Island build, you're going to have a little bit of beach there, aren't you? I've set this up with some beach chairs and parasols, so we can make believe that some of the guests might wander down here and have a little bit of a relax by the sea. Further along, I've added a beach restaurant here. This is using the same design style as I used to build the pier archway, so a rough painted timber and the thatch roof design. Let's take a look inside. So in here, we've got the tables set up and I've subtly decorated these with the island feel for them. And as you can see, it's a big open space, nice and airy there, which you would get on a beach restaurant like this. The kitchen part, I've made use of the Oceania pieces here and also got quite a lot of plants as well. I figured that would be something that you might have inside just to give it that tropical vibe. So yeah, it seems to be popular, the amount of people wanting to dine in here. Let's move on. Working our way back along the path. So, all of the staff buildings in this build, I've used the in-game blueprints for these. Frontier have done such an excellent job for these. Every new pack launch, I tend to use the in-game blueprints for the first couple of builds to get the hang of how the pieces work and what they're offering. Using the in-game blueprints is an excellent way to do this because they do put a huge effort into making exceptional blueprints like this. This is the trade centre, and over the road here I've got the toilet in. Oh, and with that we are coming up to our first habitat. This is a little penguin enclosure. Now, first thing you'll see here, it's quite an understated building I've got here for the hard shelter. And I've done it this way because this is very much the style that is used for these small buildings in Pacific Islands. So that's what the penguins have got. For the viewing area, well, we've got this lovely new low fence made out of driftwood. I do like this a lot, and it works well for small beach animals like the penguins. They can't get over the fence, so it works ideal for little animals like this. The habitat itself, I've shaped this into a small cove for the penguins, and I did try to make this look like it's connected to the sea. I thought that might be a nice idea. So over by the barrier with the water here, this is a glass barrier to contain the water, and there is a trick to where you can lower the barrier to the water's edge. But I tried that and the penguins were escaping from it. So I raised it up a bit, and again, the penguins were magically able to escape even with the barrier raised. So instead, I've added some netting here to prevent that. This netting is also a new piece and fits in very well with a sea build. So that's our little penguin cove. Let's go and find another animal. Ah, right, so higher up the island, I thought this might be a good place to keep the Tasmanian Devils. They're a nice addition to the game, but admittedly, these are my least favourite of the Oceania Pack animals. That's nothing against the Tasmanian Devils, but I just prefer the other animals in the pack. The Tasmanian Devils remind me very much of the badgers in how you need to look after them. Although the Tasmanian Devils are, I think they're a confident species, so that's why I've got these nice open fences in here. They can jump, so you have to make sure I think it was 3 meters, anything above 3 meters is what you need for the barriers. So I've got a bit of a dip down here with this is a lovely new piece in the new pack, the rock wall. I love this one. And then you've got the ropes up above so people don't just drop down there. But in general, the Tasmanian Devils, they will run about up here, and they do have a burrow that they'll go sleep in. Apart from that, they do have their own special animations and stuff, but it's really not catching my attention. So let's move on. Now, the road winds itself down from here to follow along for the other enclosures. And obviously I've got a little golf cart sitting way out here, like I was talking about before. I've just dotted these around everywhere. The road does follow different terrain and levels. I've deliberately done that to make it more interesting, so we do go over a couple of bridges as well. This gives you a great view of what the new path fencing looks like. I really love this fencing, and I really wish it was available to use as scenery pieces as well. You can kind of make this yourself with the netting, but the new netting that we've got, it kind of dips in the middle, so it's not ideal for using for the fencing like we've got here. It's a nice straight fencing next to the path, and I really wish we could have that just to make our own fencing. Hey ho, we just live with it, shall we? Anyway, this bridge over the main island, that brings you out to the Quokka habitat. Quackers are super sweet, just like the other marsupials, like the kangaroos and the wallabies. They're very sweet. They're just really, really tiny. Considering how tiny they are actually quite particular about how much room they need. They need quite a lot of space. Now, I've only got about 8 Quackers in here at the moment. You can have up to 24 in one enclosure. So with all 24, you need a fair bit more space than I've got here. Anyway, for hard shelter in this enclosure, I've used new scenery pieces to make a hut for them here. Now, I could probably have made this a bit smaller. Looking at it now, it's rather tall, isn't it, for such small animals? I think this is one of the first enclosures that I attempted with this island, and I did make another hut that, well, we'll get to that later on, but there is another hutch for the kiwis, and that looks a lot better than this. But there we go, that's the Quackers. Now, behind the Quackers, I had a go at shaping a small volcano here because I'm absolutely in love with the new volcano pieces added to the pack, and I felt I couldn't do a Pacific Island build justice if I didn't play with those pieces a little bit. I didn't want to go overboard with this because you could very easily fall into the trap of having to make the entire volcano out of the pieces, and I definitely didn't want to go there. That was just too much effort at this stage. So we've got a very subtle nod to the hot lava back here. This starts with the lava up top, then I wanted it to look like this dips back into the mountain. So there's a little bit of a gap here with no rocks, and then that opens out to a bit more of a waterfall for the lava. Lava fall, I guess you'd call it. And then it dips back in, and eventually that just pools out below. So yeah, some really cool new lava pieces, and I definitely recommend that you check those out. Beyond the lava, we come to, well, what I'm calling the island's luxury accommodation. Now, this is actually quite popular in real life. You'll notice with the touristy islands in the South Pacific, they will really sell on the fact that they've got holiday villas sitting in the ocean itself. So you have the really shallow water and the hut on top. Really popular in places like Bora Bora. Anyway, I had to go at creating my own here. Each hut has its own dock, and it's such a quaint little home. Out front is a porch for sunbathing, and for once, I actually took the time to decorate inside. Normally, I don't bother, and I'm guilty. A lot of my builds, I'll do all the decoration on the outside and never do anything with the inside. So for once, I thought, just make the effort and do the inside. So inside here, we've got a little bedroom. And the view out onto the water there, it's just fabulous, isn't it? I even went to the effort of putting in the little amenities, so you can watch the Planet Zoo channel here, or you could relax listening to some of the Planet Zoo music on the speakers. I even added a tiny bathroom as well. It's a little messy in here. It's really difficult to get anything into such a small space like this. Credit where credit's due, I was running out of time with this build, didn't have enough time to start messing with the little pieces here to make the toilet and the sink. So this is a blueprint by one of my favourite Planet Zoo creators, Zekin. Zekin is an absolute expert at making the small prop stuff, so big thank you for that, and it's really rounding out the little huts here and making it more realistic. Anyway, that's the overwater huts there. If we move on and follow the bridge over the shallow water there, you find yourself at the second smaller island. This is much more of a beach-heavy island, so I figured why not have a few beach amenities here? And of course, what is the biggest beach amenity that you're going to get on a South Pacific island? I made a little Tiki Bar. This is your classic Tiki Bar on the beach, and it comprises of 2 counters. So I've got a pizza counter on one side and gulpy drinks on the other. So fulfilling a dual purpose, shall we say. Really fun little build to make this, and I have uploaded it as a separate item on the workshop because I was that pleased with it. I thought I wanted to share it in advance of doing this whole tour video. Beyond the bar, there's another drink stall, and I've added another one of those toilets in here as well. Now, if you follow the road round here, getting through the jungle a little bit there, this winds itself around into the new bat walkthrough habitat, the Flying Fox. Again, this is the in-game blueprints for the walkthrough enclosure here, and such a good job that they've done on this. Far better than what I could come up with without spending 20 plus hours on a build myself. So yep, gone with the in-game blueprint for this one, and I think it works really well with the setting I've got set up here, so in the undergrowth of a small beachy island there. If we work our way through to the other end of the Flying Fox enclosure, there is another habitat out here, and oh wow, I've never looked at the island from this view. Got to say, what a beautiful view. You've got the ocean and the mountains in the background. That's just perfect, isn't it? Anyway, let's take a look at the habitat back here. You may have guessed what's coming up. It's the North Island Brown Kiwi. In real life, these flightless birds spend all of their time in deep undergrowth, so I certainly wanted to give a feel for that in this habitat. There is a fence back there, but I've put in so much vegetation that you can barely see it, and that's exactly what I was going for. Another feature in here, what I was talking about before, I've got a little hutch at the back here. This is much smaller than the one I made for the Quackers, and reality is if I had more time I'd probably go back and do the Quokka hutch a little smaller like this as well. Hey ho, I was on a time limit. Now, the Kiwis, I'm going to say it, they're my favourite animal in this pack. I adore the Kiwis. They're very sweet, and the way they move, the noises they make, the little animations for them, I'm in love with them. They're a really small addition to the game, so they don't need a lot of space here. Very small enclosure. They do use the burrows as well, so that sorts out your hard shelter needs. I just added my hutch there for decoration, I guess. Although they do go in there and have little naps in the day. So that's all of the animals covered now, and well, that's the full island. Felt like I achieved a personal goal completing this build, finished what I started, and couldn't finish with my Southeast Asia island build. The full zoo is now up on the workshop if you want to check it out for yourself, and a link to that is in the description below. I hope you like it, and please let me know in the comments if you do or don't. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next video.